Welcome back, SethBling here. This is the next video on my quest to create 360 custom Mario-themed Magic the Gathering cards for a draft cube. You need 360 cards because you need 45 cards for each of 8 players. Anyway, this video I'm going to go over these 17 cards. I am currently at 120 cards plus 5 basic lands. 120 is a third of 360, so I'm a third of the way done designing my cards. Of course, there's going to be a lot of playtesting involved and all that stuff, but really good progress. I'm happy to be a third of the way there in terms of designing cards. So I'm going to show you 17 cards today that I've been designing on stream or off stream with a lot of help from the Mario the Gathering subreddit. There's links in the description for both my Twitch stream and also for the Mario the Gathering subreddit, which is basically where I've been using to design all these cards. It's really been a very community-based project, but if you don't know anything about this project, there's a link in the description also for the first video in the series, which talks about the different strategies involved, or the different strategies that the set has that you can draft. But let's get right to it. Princess Peach is in the Heroes Shard, the set of Shard being a set of 3 colors that has a cohesive strategy. And you'll see right here, Super is the mechanic for that Shard. So Princess Peach is pretty aggressively costed. 1/3 lifelink for 1 with Super. Super means sacrifice an aura or equipment that's attached to this creature in order to give it hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So Super is like if you give Peach a mushroom and then she takes a hit, instead of dying, she just loses the mushroom. So it's pretty good upside for a 1/3 for 1, but it's got a downside. Tap 5 untap creatures you control in order to gain control of Princess Peach, and any player may activate this ability. So if your opponent has a bunch of 1/1 black minion tokens, which is definitely a possibility in this set, they can tap all of them and gang up and kidnap Princess Peach. So very flavorful. Princess Peach is like one of her main functions in the Mario franchise to be kidnapped. So I definitely wanted to include it on the card, but she's got some nice stats if you can avoid letting her get captured. You'll note that Super does not prevent Princess Peach from being captured this way, since it doesn't target Princess Peach or anything like that. So if your opponent does have 5 creatures though, and you have a bunch of auras or equipment that are attached to Princess Peach, you can always sacrifice them in response so that your opponent just gets a sort of the 1/3 lifelink and doesn't get all the things that are attached to it. But that is still a lot of things to lose if you put a couple enchantments on there, and then your opponent gets to just force you to sacrifice the enchantments and they get to take the creature. So a lot of investment. Basically, she's good to invest in if you can keep your opponent from getting to the point where they have 5 creatures, either through removal or by just killing them fast enough. But she can be very aggressive on her own. Next up, we've got an equipment that you could attach to Princess Peach if you were in white-blue. So this is Flood. This is the water jet thingy that Mario wears on his back in Mario Sunshine. Flood is an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. You can also give it flying by spending blue. So basically, you use water as a jet to fly around. It's a big part of the mechanics of that game. Whenever a equipped creature attacks or blocks, you may remove a counter from target permanent. You use the flood equipment to clean off paint from things in Sunshine. And so this is a cool little ability that might not be relevant all the time, but sometimes it can, remove a counter from a planeswalker, or it can remove a +1/+1 counter from something, or even a -1/-1 counter. There's a couple of different counters in the set. I intentionally made it so you could use this card without spending blue, because the Heroes Shard, which really cares about having equipment, is red, white, green, and doesn't usually have access to blue mana, though you potentially could play... you could play Princess Peach and Flood in the same deck, for sure. Whoops. And, blue-white is pretty easy to play together, so... so you can pay either blue or 2 to play the card, and then you can equip for 1 mana. If you really just want to get an equipment attached to something, attach it to Princess Peach to protect her from being killed, that sort of stuff. Yeah, but I felt like the card had to be blue, and I like that it gets a blue frame this way too. And the more water you have, the better Flood is. You can also equip this to multiple creatures in a turn if you want to give them all flying, but it requires a lot of water. Backwards long jump. This is a very silly card based on a glitch in Super Mario 64 that you may have seen, where you can long jump backwards upstairs in order to get going really, really fast and often clip through things or glitch out things. So specifically, you may have seen it on the stairs. There's like an infinite stairway going up to the final Bowser fight. If you don't have 70 stars in that game, then you just keep walking up the stairs forever, and you can never get to the top. But you can use backwards long jump to bypass that barrier and just like glitch your way up to the top of the stairs. So that's the idea behind the card. So this is a combination Saga Aura. Sagas were introduced in the Dominaria set as enchantments that did something every turn. So when you play the card, it does something, and then each turn thereafter it does something as well. And so in this case, the turn that you play it, enchanted creature doesn't untap during your next untap step. So what that does is either if you don't attack with a creature, then you can attack with it next turn, or if you did attack with it and it's tapped, then you can't attack with it next turn. So it prevents you from attacking from either this turn or next turn. And the flavor here is that in order to get the backwards long jump set up, you have to spend a while like kind of doing this weird, if you watch a video of backwards long jump, it'll make a lot of sense. You have to build up speed. But once you do build up speed, the creature goes flying, literally goes flying, very high velocities. And then the turn after that, you can finally clip through something or glitch past the stairs. Enchanted creature can't be blocked this turn. Whenever it deals damage to an opponent this turn, draw 2 cards. So this is the payoff. It takes 3 turns, but the card's cheap. But you need to have a creature, and you need to have play the card on it. But if you can get it all the way here, you can clip past the stairs or clip past a wall or something and claim the reward. Deal damage to Bowser and claim a star or whatever. So you get to draw 2 cards. So I like this card. I think it's very, very flavorful. I think it's also very silly and goofy, and I love it. All right, Credit Warp, another glitch card. There's various Mario games with Credit Warps. Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3 are, I guess those are the games with Credit Warps. I've done a lot of Credit Warp speedruns in my time, but this image is from Super Mario Bros. 3 because it has a really nice like glitched out look. So Credit Warp is in the Mario Maker shard, which uses this architect keyword. Architect means if there are 4 or more card types among permanents you control. And so the effect is end the turn. This is a very strong effect that first showed up on the card Time Stop. There's reminder text that tells you what it does. Exile all spells and abilities from the stack, including this card. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hand size. Damage wears off, and this turn and until end of turn effects ends. So you can use this in a couple ways. If you cast this during your opponent's upkeep, they do get to untap for the turn, but they don't get to draw, and they certainly don't get to cast any like sorcery speed spells or creatures or anything like that. So it's kind of like a time walk that lets your opponent untap. Or you can use it in response to your opponent's spell to counter that spell. So it's a pretty flexible card. Time Stop costs 6, and this only costs 4. It's in 2 colors, and also it has this architect requirement. This card does absolutely nothing if you don't have 4 or more card types among permanents you control. So you kind of need like a land and a creature and an enchantment and an artifact or something like that. Also, if you like cast this spell and your opponent can remove one of your card types, and so that you no longer have architect by the time the spell resolves, then it does nothing. So it's a kind of more interactive spell than Time Stop is because of that, and but it's also a lot cheaper. So strong effect, but a little bit hard to pull off. Requires a lot of setup, much like a Credit Warp. All right, moving on. Superstar. This was a card design inspired by Zankage on the Mario the Gathering subreddit. He had some cool ideas, but he basically had the idea of using protection from everything. I thought it would be cooler, like in a set where you want to be enchanting your creatures. Protection from everything makes all of the auras that you've attached to that creature that makes them fall off and go to the graveyard. And so this lets you target a creature. You really don't want to target a creature your opponent controls because you're just giving it good abilities. But if you target a creature you control, any of your opponent's spells won't be able to target it. They won't be able to damage it either. It really protects the creatures from your opponent's cards, and any auras that are attached to that creature that belong to your opponent will also fall off. And it also gives Death Touch because when you have a superstar, you kill anything you touch. So These two abilities, I think, just totally encompass the flavor of Superstar. Maybe Trampled, but I mean, you can give the creature protection from opponents before you attack, and then they can't even block. So you don't really need it. Yeah, can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, enchanted, or equipped by anything controlled by... that's a sub notification because I'm live streaming right now. I guess I'll respond to it. Welcome back, Ariel511 here. Thanks for subbing for 8 months. Much appreciated. Yeah, so anyway, this has all the flavor of Superstar. I don't know if this is like too strong or too weak. I'll have to do some playtesting to figure that out. This protection from opponents thing first appeared on True Name Nemesis, except it wasn't protection from all opponents. You name a player, and then it has protection from that player. But it gives the template for what it means to have protection from a player, and this is what it means. So it can still be killed by effects that don't target things like destroy all creatures, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think it's a cool card. Wrong Castle. So this is whenever in Mario 1, whenever you beat a castle, Toad is at the end of the castle, except for the very last one. Toad is at the end of the castle, says, "Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle." And so this is supposed to encompass the flavor of that. So target creature that dealt damage to you this turn. So that's like a creature that was able to get past your defenses and, get to the end of the castle. You put that creature into its owner's library, third from the top. So it still deals the damage. It still beats the castle and deals the damage. But that creature is now like super delayed, has to go through 3 more levels before it can get back to another castle and try again. So I think it's really flavorful. This isn't really an effect that black gets or even really white anymore. So this is a bit of a color pie break, if you know what color pie means. Just not these effects usually wouldn't be printed either in white or black anymore, but actually maybe I should change it. I guess I could do like I'll say creatures dealing damage to you and then punishing them is actually an effect in both white and black. It's the putting the card into its owner's library third from the top. White used to get that effect, black never really did, but I don't know. I like the white black. I feel like white and black are really like the colors that best embody the flavor of this. I might change it, but I like it for now. Here's Traffic Lakitu. So this is the Lakitu that tells you when you can go in a Mario Kart race, that sort of stuff. It'll fish you out of a pond if you fall into a pond or fall off Rainbow Road, whatever. So he's a 1/1 with flying. Crew costs of vehicles you control are reduced by 1. This effect can't reduce crew costs less than 1. That's pretty straightforward, makes it easier to crew things. Anything that has crew 2, Traffic Lakitu can now crew, which is pretty cool. He's also got this effect that lets you fish your vehicles out of ponds. So choose target vehicle card that was put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn, return it to its owner's hand. The interesting thing about this is if you use Traffic Lakitu to crew something, you can't also use this ability since it'll be tapped. So you kind of have to choose which one you want to do. But it's like a pretty powerful effect. Repeatable. It's like repeatable card advantage. So it's a powerful effect, but it is in enemy colors, which means you can really only play this card if you're kind of devoted to that vehicle strategy, the black, blue, white strategy. But I mean, you really all the effect. If you don't have any vehicles, this is just a 1/1 flyer for 4, which is pretty bad. Next up, we have my cycle of full art basic lands. This is Yoshi's Island, which is of course an island. This is the sort of like a artist rendition of the cover art from Yoshi's Island. Plains, this is one of the early levels from Super Mario 64, I think. I'm not really sure which one. Maybe Papa Battlefield. Forest of Illusion. Tall Mountain. And then this is the swampiest looking art I could find that looked pretty nice. It is, I think, digital art. But anyway, it looks very swampy. It's not like any particular swamp from in-game, though. All right, so we have 5 cards left. Here's Mr. Eye. So Mr. Eye is this giant eye that you can run around in circles and it'll confuse it. And eventually it pops if you run around it for, I think, 3 times. Or maybe you don't even have to do it 3 times, but I think it is. Anyway, so he's a 6/3 for 3, and it has a creature type Eye. So there's like a history in Magic of like Eye of Orms by Gore or something, which is a 6/3 eye for 3. I think it's a cost 3 anyway. But at the beginning of your combat on your turn, any opponent may tap an untapped creature they control. If a player does, put a -1/-1 counter on Mr. I. Otherwise, remove all -1/-1 counters from Mr. I. So you have to keep running around it. Otherwise, it gets reoriented and it doesn't keep spinning. But if you do for 3 turns, it'll die. This also lets you like tap a 1/1 and then block with a 2/2 or something or whatever to block successfully on the first turn. So it's got nice stats if your opponent doesn't interact with it, but if they do, it's like maybe a little bit weak for a 3-drop. So I think it's a cool card. I think it's definitely playable and kind of cool in some circumstances. This plays into the black, blue, red Ghost House theme of caring about your opponent's untapped creatures. So if your opponent only leaves one creature untapped, you can like tap it down with another card before your attack step, and then you get to remove all the -1/-1 counters from it and attack with this sweet 6/3. So synergizes with some of the other cards in the set. Here's Ghost Story. So this is a pretty powerful card that's a Ghost House enabler. As an additional cost to cast Ghost Story, sacrifice a creature. And then search your library for a card and put it onto the battlefield face down, then shuffle your library. So there's actually kind of a lot to unpack here. So first of all, sacrificing a creature can be very beneficial in this set since you might have a spook creature on the battlefield. A spook creature is a card like Boo Ring, where you can play it face down as a 2/2 creature for 3. Then when it dies while face down, you exile it and you can cast it later from exile for its spook cost. So spook creatures, you actually kind of want them to die sometimes so that you can play them as their like main face up side for their spook cost. So it's definitely a cost and you can't always pay it really efficiently, but sometimes you actually want to be paying this cost. There's also cards like Kidnap, which let you take control of an opponent's creature, and so it's actually nice to have a sacrifice outlet. So sacrificing is definitely a sub-theme of a couple of the shards in this set. So it's actually, it looks like it's a downside, but sometimes it's not. And then search your library for a card and put it onto the battlefield face down, then shuffle your library. So any face down creature on the battlefield is by default a 2/2 creature. Now, this doesn't say anything about how you turn it face up. So by default, there's no way to turn these cards face up. This is not the manifest ability, which grants it the ability to turn face up for its mana cost if it's a creature. Basically, the only way to turn it face up is to search your library for a card with spook or morph or something like that, and then put that face down. And then if it's like a spook card and it dies, then you can cast it for its spook cost. But I like that you can search your library for any card and put it face down. Because then you don't have to reveal it, because there's no constraints on what kind of card you can find, so there's no reason to have to reveal it. So it plays into the Ghost House theme of like hidden information and being tricky. So your opponent will never know what the card is until they either kill it or they cast Shine Upon on it. So this is another card. It's a utility card. It's very flexible. Tap target creature. If it's face down, look at it. So this look at it means look at the face down side of it, but you leave it face down. And then you get to draw a card. So usually if you have an effect that draws a card, it will have restrictions on when you can cast it. So you cannot cast this card if there aren't any creatures on the battlefield. But if there is, you tap it, and if it's face down, you also get to look at it, so you get a bit of information about face down cards. So it's a nice little flavorful card. It's basically the flashlight from Luigi's Mansion will, reveal a ghost and also stun it. And that's what the tapping does. So if you have this Mr. I, like I said, and your opponent leaves one creature untapped to try and tap it down, or to try and give it the -1/-1 counter, you can use Shine Upon to tap that creature before combat, and then they won't. When you actually do go to your combat step, they won't have any creatures, and you'll get to remove all the counters from Mr. I, and you get to attack with it. It's pretty sweet. Next up is Rex. Rex is this dragon guy from Super Mario World. You can jump on it once and it gets really squished up, and then if you jump on it again, it dies. And so this is a really simple design that we got from Everything is Normal, a user on the Mario the Gathering subreddit. And I like it. You can block it with a 1/1, and it'll get squished, and then you can block it again with another 1/1 or something. Or you can deal 1 damage to it with something. There's plenty of things in this set that can deal 1 damage and shrink it. So it's nice flavor, and it's just like a really simple card design, and I like it. And then Top Secret Area is the last card for today. This is card design. I actually was inspired by something I saw on the subreddit. Somebody was talking about a coin block that had an ability like this. But I actually liked the idea of putting this on a land. And also, I've been looking for a way to use this art, and it made me think, well, Top Secret Area fits all of this. So Top Secret Area is a level that you can unlock, but it's like a secret, it's a secret level you can unlock in Super Mario World. It's got a bunch of these question mark blocks. They don't look like this, but this is a cool little, like, very whimsical interpretation of Top Secret Area. And you can just get some free power-ups from Top Secret Area whenever you want. And so this is supposed to sort of, have the flavor of that. Treasure Token sort of is more like representative of a coin in this set, but I think it works in this case too. It's like a coin or it's kind of a generic power-up, that sort of thing. Oh, welcome back, Blue Neutron Singularity here. Thanks for subbing. Anyway, I am live right now. Is this card powerful? I don't know. It's like a little bit weak early game. It doesn't provide any colors in your, in a set where your decks usually want to be 3 colors. So early game, it's kind of weak. You can pay 2 and tap it to create a treasure token and then immediately sacrifice the treasure token. So you're kind of tapping 3 lands to get 1 mana of any color. That ability is pretty weak, but you can also build up treasure tokens in order to play larger spells of whatever color. So this can be a good enabler for decks that have like larger spells, are playing a longer game, and maybe are more colors. So cool fixing, interesting. That doesn't fit every deck for sure, but still pretty cool in certain decks. All right, so that is it for this video. I have 120 cards plus 5 basic lands. That means I am 1/3 of the way to 360, which is pretty sweet. If you want to help design these cards, check out reddit.com/r/Mario the Gathering. There's a link in the description. Also, check out my Twitch stream. I'm doing all of this design, well, most of this design live on stream. Also doing some playtesting now. Yeah, so check them out, and hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.